tonight's big stories, a first look at the detention facility being readied for suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo and several others wanted by the Senate. And yes, it comes with air conditioning.
The Finance Department crunches the numbers and says, yes, the economy will survive without POGOs. But what will happen to the thousands of Filipino workers in it? We'll be speaking with DOLE Secretary Benvenido Laguesma about it later on.
And PhilHealth is returning almost 90 billion pesos in excess funds to the National Treasury for use in unprogrammed appropriations. But budget watchdogs are warning that this could be a way or a new way to misappropriate funds.
Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
And we are very green tonight, as you can see. Green and black, I guess. But let's start off tonight's show with a first look at the new detention facility being readied for Bamban Mayor Alice Guo. I should say suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo and the others who were recently served arrest warrants, or they attempted to serve the arrest warrants. So if they surrender, that is, this is the facility that they will be met with.
Well, officials say they will be comfortable there, which used to be a daycare facility inside the Senate building. And yes, it is air-conditioned, and Go will even be served snacks and allowed visitors.
Now, all that has sparked concerns whether there is special treatment for the embattled Go, who remains in hiding to this day. Here's the report.
The Senate has already prepared the detention facility that will serve as a temporary home for suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo and her family once they are arrested. The Senate's Office of the Sergeant-at-Arms recently served the arrest orders against Guo and several others after they were cited in contempt for skipping the Senate hearing on POGOs. Individuals being cited in contempt by the Senate are usually brought to detention rooms in the building's basement area. But the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms says this new facility is meant to cater to bigger group of detained individuals.
Siyempre family sila, doon masikip doon sa area and dinid to na siyempre magsama-sama sila. So itong inano ni SP sa akin na dito na lang sila ilagay. Then may sarili naman itong toilet and bath and air condition. They are provided actually the beddings and yung sa pillow with linen and bed sheets. But if they prefer to bring their own, sa kanila yon. And they are provided meals 3 times a day with snacks.
The Senate denies giving any special treatment to Guo, saying the facility is meant for the rising number of persons being cited in contempt by the Senate. They also want to ensure the safety of these people. That's why it's located near a PNP detachment office.
Here I can assure her security 24/7. I've done it before. I was a commander before, and I assured the people within my area of responsibility that they are safe.
For now, there's still no word on the whereabouts of Mayor Alice Guo and the others. Her lawyer says she is still in the country. Senator assured Guo that she will not be denied basic rights while in detention. She will be allowed to meet with her counsels and have visitors over. They can also avail of regular health checkups. While in Senate custody. Mobile journalist Kyla Macantan, we are One News.
You're right, Reg. It does look comfortable, but we have just been seeing photos of her actual properties as well as the quote-unquote POGO resort.
You think it's
You put it side by side.
Yeah, medyo downgrade talaga.
It's a major downgrade.
Yeah. Pero her security...
Air-conditioned at least.
Air-conditioned, it looks complete, the mattresses look new, and most importantly, you're safe.
I mean,
Pero at
then
least hindi naman
you'll be allowed
iisipin
to
ni Alice,
receive
no?
visitors.
Kahit pa paano, ano siya na, I could turn myself in, right? Because it's decent, at least.
Well, I don't think the accommodations is the only worry of Mayor.
If they believe that they've been subjected to trial by publicity, then I doubt that she will come out of the woodwork, but let's see.
Let's
Let's
see.
see.
Let's
There
see
could
if
be
that
more twists and turns to this saga.
You mean the accommodations might be tempting enough to force her out of the woodwork. Anyway, speaking of POGOs, the Finance Department has done the math and says, yes, the economy will survive even without POGOs. In fact, it told senators that the opportunity cost of keeping POGOs is much higher than the revenue that they bring in. Mayan Los Baños with the details.
A torture den and a multi-million peso industry linked to scams and other illegal activities. Those are among the serious crimes connected to illegal POGOs. That's why various government agencies like the National Security Council have thrown their support for a complete ban on POGOs in the country.
We have seen the extent of criminal activities being conducted in some of the IGLs and POGO facilities, particularly human trafficking, cyber fraud, prostitution, etc., which to us has become a very serious national concern.
According to Senate Committee Chairman Sherwin Gatchalian, POGOs should be considered a threat to national security.
We are already seeing red flags. In my opinion, we should not wait for the detonation of a bigger scenario. I think the red flags should be enough for us to declare it as a national security threat.
The economic agencies have also expressed support for a total ban on POGOs. According to the Department of Finance, the net cost of POGO operations is under 100 billion pesos. They computed it by deducting 265 billion pesos in lost investment opportunities due to the negative reputation POGOs bring from all the revenues that POGOs do bring annually, which amounts to more than 166 billion pesos.
There's an impact to investment. So basically, there's lower investments because of POGO activities. And we know that if there are more investment, we could have actually collected taxes from these supposed investments if they have come in. So again, you have to balance out. And in this particular case, we can see that the costs are definitely higher than the benefits.
In short, the cost of keeping POGOs is higher than the benefits per the DOF's computation. Hence, NEDA also supports a total ban, citing the added risk of being blacklisted by China where POGOs are illegal. NEDA says if that happens, the country could potentially lose up to 144 billion pesos in tourism revenue. The hearing also discussed the issue of 20,000 Filipino POGO employees who would lose their jobs once POGO companies are shut down. The Labor Department says it's ready to help with skills training for affected workers. On the other hand, PAGCOR insists POGOs can be regulated better and only illegal ones should be kicked out. Currently, the agency is strictly monitoring 43 legal POGO companies.
Linilinis natin at inaalis natin lahat ng dapat na alisin, hindi karapat-dapat na mabigyan ng lisensya. At sa natitirang pong 43, the 43 that is left, we are making sure that they are not involved in any criminal activities.
Senators like Risa Hontiveros and Win Gatchalian continue to push for a blanket ban as the country works to be taken out of the global dirty money list. Authorities have already frozen 90 bank accounts and other assets of Alice Go and a few others suspected of money laundering and fraud. For News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
Because of his work investigating illegal POGO, Senator Gatchalian says he started getting death threats. In a letter to Pasay Police, he said, on July 4, I was informed by my staff of a video circulating online containing explicit threats directed at my personal safety and well-being. He also said, the creation and online dissemination of this video has caused me substantial concern for my security as well as the safety of those around me, particularly my family and staff. Gatchalian then requested police to initiate a report and conduct a thorough investigation on the matter.
As calls grow louder for a blanket ban on POGOs, another question that is being raised is what will happen to the thousands of workers, Filipino workers in the sector. And to discuss this, let's bring in DOLE Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma to tonight's show. Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story, Secretary.
Good evening, John. Good evening, Gretchen, and good evening, Regina.
My Secretary, we've heard the Department of Finance recommend a total ban on POGOs. First of all, I just wanted to ask if the Department of Labor and Employment has already been asked to come up with solutions to the thousands of jobs. 25,000, I believe, is the latest forecast of jobs lost in terms of the Filipino workers in the sector. Have you prepared solutions for this?
As early as last year, actually, we have started communicating with the POGO companies. The intention was to be able to generate information by profiling Filipino workers who might be affected in the event that there will be a total ban or closure of this POGO. Incidentally, POGO or non-POGO, if they are engaged in illegal activities, they should not be welcome in the Philippines.
Hi, Sec Benny, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, Sec Benny, I just wanted to run some numbers by you. I know Gretchen saw 25,000, but I was actually also raking through old reports. Now, from June, you said you were already doing that profiling and the review of POGOs. The number that you cited was 22,000 Filipino workers to be affected.
Yes.
Here in NCR alone. 1 month around there has passed. Do you have an updated number nationwide of about how many Filipino workers will be affected pag naban po no, ng total ang POGOs?
Actually, kasi ang concentration ng mga nag-ooperate ng POGO ay nasa NCR, no? And in Region 3, actually, isa na lang ang surviving internet gaming licensee. The other regions, actually, we are awaiting confirmation. But as I have been informed, per the PAGCOR head count, there are only 43 operating right now. And actually, they have rebranded POGO to IGL. So, POGO right now is a no-no as far as PAGCOR is concerned. And we are closely coordinating with them. In fact, out of these existing companies, around 28 of them have submitted the completed profile of workers who might be affected. And we have more or less identified the positions of the Filipino workers who might need the assistance from the Department of Labor and Employment in the various forms of intervention.
Right. Last month also, Sec, sabi ninyo, no, big challenge and problem ang haharapin natin kapag natupad nga yung total ban. Have you changed your mind about that statement in the past month?
What I said is that a loss of employment, whatever it is, will always be a challenge for the department because we are seeing improvement in our labor and employment statistics. But nevertheless, we still have a considerable number of Filipinos who are unemployed and underemployed. So, lagi namang lagi naming concern, gusto namin makita na lahat ng ating mga kababayan na pwedeng maghanap buhay, makakita ng trabaho sa ating sariling bansa. Kaya we always say na it's always a challenge for us, not simply providing employment, but the ideal situation is that we are able to provide them quality and decent jobs.
Secretary, you say you've been profiling the workers, right? So who are they? What is their general age demographic? Are they mostly male or female? Are they college educated? Who are these people?
It's a mix. It's a mix, no? Pero mas maraming ang per the records provided by me, to me, via the National Capital Region, mas marami ang kababaihan doon sa kanilang binigay na initial na data. Doon sa 22,000 na nabanggit mo kanina, mga 12,000 doon ay female, 10,000 more or less are male, no? That number.
Okay. Malaki po ba yung sweldo?
What is the general age demographic, did you say?
No, wala akong binanggit na age. Ang sinabi ko yung category, babae at saka
Okay.
lalaki. Mas
So-
marami ang kababaihan.
Okay, so do we know what their general age range is, the median age range of the workers?
That information I'm still awaiting because
Okay.
what the National Capital Region is doing, hinihimay nilang mabuti kasi para makita namin anong klaseng intervention ang pwede namin maipagkaloob. Dahil marami sa kanila, mga encoders, admin staff, at saka yung nandoon sa SR and finance staff ng nasabing mga kumpanya.
Right, exactly, Secretary. I mean, the reason I'm asking about the general profile is it impacts what kind of jobs you could source for them in the future, right? So, for instance, are they mostly
correct.
college educated? And if they're not, then what kind of jobs can you help source for them, right?
Yes, that's true. Meron ding mga not exactly college graduates dahil meron din silang mga utility staff those involved in housekeeping and maintenance work. At meron ding mga drivers na nagsiservisyo sa nasabing POGO companies. Pero ang majority, nandun sa nabanggit ko kanina, admin staff, SR staff, finance staff, and even involved in marketing and liaisoning, plus yung mga encoders. No? Ang majority ay encoders.
Okay. And do we have any ideas, Sec Benny, kasi usap-usapan lagi na mataas daw magbayad yung mga POGO. I know hindi pa tapos yung results ng inyong review, pero as early as now, meron ba tayong idea kung totoo nga ba na mas generous magbayad itong mga POGOs?
Again, iba-iba din ang sweldo, depende dun sa klase ng trabaho. So, meron pa rin mga minimum wage earners.
Okay.
Kikita ng range sa 30,000 to 40,000. Pero I think we will be able to complete the study so that nabanggit ko kanina, ano ba ang pwede naming gawin in terms of upskilling, training, employment facilitation, as well as to be providing them specialized projects or livelihood grants. Some of them might not be probably open to looking for other jobs, but we'll try to help them out on the basis of the programs of the Department of Labor and Employment.
Secretary, the DOLE has mentioned that workers will be ensured separation pay and other benefits. Is that correct? And when you say workers and you're going to help workers, are those the Filipino workers only?
Yes. Basically, Filipino workers, because wala naman tayong dun sa mga foreigners dito, I think that they should be taken care of by their employers separately. We can extend assistance also to them, no? Kasi alam naman natin na marami tayong mga Filipino workers elsewhere. And we'd like to also be able to help those in need, irrespective kung sila ay foreigner, anong pwede nating maipagkaloob na assistance. But certainly, we have to prioritize yung ating pong mga local workers na maapektuhan in the event of a total ban or closure.
Secretary, totoo po ba yung guarantee ng separation pay and other benefits? At sino po ang mag-shoulder nun? Paano nyo po babantayan na mababayaran yon in the event of a total ban?
Yun po yung kasama sa ginagawang profiling ng ating National Capital Region, Department of Labor and Employment, kasi na-meet na po nila, nakakapulong na po nila lahat po ng mga kumpanya na nag-ooperate pa sa ngayon, at bahagi po yon ng kanilang intervention na ipagkakaloob sa mga maapektuhan pong mga manggagawa.
Okay. Kailan naman po, Sec, matatapos or kailan nyo inaasahan kahit more or less estimate lang, no, itong review ninyo?
Gusto sana namin as soon as possible, no? Dahil hindi namin alam ano magiging sitwasyon, kung maging abrupt yung decision o kaya naman may transition period. Makakatulong kung merong time na kami ay makagawa ng aming mga respective na intervention kasama niyong pag-i-insure ng kanilang mga benepisyo na dapat matanggap sa kanilang employer.
Ay, sorry po, yung benepisyo po, yung pondo po nun ay galing po sa inyo o galing po dun sa
Hindi
mga
po.
POGO?
Galing po yun sa kumpanya nila dahil yun po ang kanilang employer. Ang DOLE po pwede lamang magkaloob sa kanila in the forms of livelihood assistance mga displaced workers naman po ay pwede pagkat ng tinatawag na employment facilitation, imamatch po namin sila dun sa mga existing na mga trabaho, especially po yung mga nakakalap namin na vacancies galing po sa ating mga private sector, sa mga business organization.
Okay, Sec Benny, ito nagbabaka sakali lang, no? Pero itanong ko na rin habang nandito po kayo. Sabi kasi ng PAOK, around 300 po ang 300 ang illegal POGOs, no, sa buong Pilipinas. As you said nga, less than 50 na lang yung legal dyan. Do you have any idea kung gaano karaming tao na Filipinos ang employed po dito sa mga illegal POGOs? I know it's malabo dahil nga illegal sila. Pero just in case, may idea kayo.
Wala sa radar namin yan, yung illegal. In fact, hindi yan na nakarehistro sa Department of Labor and Employment. And yung mga foreigners dyan, walang tamang dokumento, walang AEP. So, mahirap sigurong mag-estimate kung gaano karami. But if we look at gaano ba ka-extensive ang operations ng isang kumpanya, gaano kalaki, so mahirap pag-estimate kung gaano karaming maapektuhan. So we are trying to coordinate also with PAO dahil gusto rin naming matingnan ano yung patayan ng kanilang sinasabi na estimate nila na maapektuhan ng manggagawa. Nang sa ganun naman, makagawa din kami ng aming appropriate na pagpaplano paano kami makakatulong at hindi magdagdagan po yung ilang walang hanap buhay sa ating bansa.
Yeah. Lastly, Secretary, in May, DOLE announced that you stopped issuing AEPs, alien employment permits, which the foreigners need to work here in the Philippines. Can you confirm that that is still in place, and what is the plan there?
We are specifically looking at POGO, no, wala na yang kung hindi na siya pumaloob doon sa operations na ginawa ng ating pong PAGCOR na IGL, masyado na hong istrikto ang pagbibigay ng alien employment permit. Pero meron pang ibang mga foreigners na hindi naman sa POGO nagtatrabaho. At yan naman ay pinapahintulutan pa rin natin. Pero nakasubject yan sa tinatawag na labor market test. Ang ibig sabihin lang yan, kung may available Pilipino na pwedeng gawing trabaho, dapat ang may preference ay ang Pilipino.
Yeah, sorry, I should have clarified. Yes, you stopped issuing AEPs for POGO workers. So it is still in place until now?
What?
You haven't issued any alien employment permits?
We have not. In fact, yung mga naiwan na POGO pa rin ang kanilang lisensya. Kinancel na ng ating regional director yung kanilang existing na AEP. Kasi they should have actually entered or praised yung bagong regulasyon ng PAGCOR na sinusundan ng DOLE kung ito po ay dapat pa sila ba eligible pa mabigyan ng alien employment permit. But basically, nagkaroon na po yan ng mahigpit na pagsusuri noong po kanilang mga
Secretary, nandyan pa po kayo?
dito pa.
Ayun, oo. Pareho naman po, ika-clarify ko lang po yung POGO at saka yung IGL o Internet Gaming License, pareho naman. Yung tinutukoy po ninyo na hindi na kayo nagbibigay, mahigpit na.
Wala na yung POGO kasi as of May. Talagang bigyan sila based on sa information na aking batid ay yung POGO should have transition to IGL. And they should actually comply dun sa mga bagong regulasyon ng PAGCOR. If they have not done so, then they are considered already illegal at hindi na sila bibigyan ng AEP ng ating pong regional offices.
Okay. Secretary, bilang panghuli na lang, pahabol na lang po, may mga syudad na nag-total ban on POGOs, namely Bulacan, Valenzuela, and Pasig. Gusto ko lang po malaman kung tumulong na rin po ang DOLE doon sa mga nawalan na trabaho ng mga Pilipino, doon po sa mga syudad na yon, ano na po yung naging mga solusyon, ano yung mga findings natin, saan po anong industriya sila nailagay?
Wala akong ganun ka-specific na data sa ngayon, pero ang ulat sa akin nga ng Region 3, wala na po silang nabigyan na AEP at kung meron pong mga displaced workers, yan po ay binibigyan ng intervention at tulong po. Ang form po ng intervention na binibigay ng DOLE ay may kinalaman po doon sa referral sa mga upskilling, training at convergence with those program in the form po ng provision sa kanila ng materials related to the training. Kasama din po yung provincial livelihood grant. Pwede rin po silang mag-avail ng aming temporary employment for displaced workers as well as employment facilitation po, yung matching ng mga available na vacancies sa kanila pong kasanayan. So lahat po ito, pinagkakaloob po ng DOLE doon sa mga makikita po natin na naapektuhan ng pagsasara o paghihinto po ng trabaho, irrespective po kung POGO yan o other industry ang naapektuhan.
Okay. Alright, maraming salamat po at sana mapangalagaan nga po natin yung kapakanan ng ating mga Filipino workers, whatever happens here in this issue. Thank you so much for joining the big story tonight, Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma.
Okay, let's move on over to another issue that was brought to light by the Alice Guo case, fake birth certificates. Apparently, some 1,200 foreigners, mostly Chinese nationals, were able to register late for birth certificates in one town in Davao del Sur. Mary Monreyes with that story.
Senators have expressed alarm over reports of fake birth certificates being produced by way of late registration. The National Bureau of Investigation said it received information that around 1,200 foreigners, mostly Chinese nationals, were able to register late for birth certificates in Santa Cruz, Davao del Sur since 2016. The NBI earlier flagged over 100 cases of questionable late birth registrations from the town civil registry from 2018 to 2019. The civil registrar of Santa Cruz has now been suspended pending investigations.
Ang fake na tinutukoy natin dito ay yung mga entries.
Yun,
no?
opo.
Mga entries. So, ibig sabihin, merong naganap na mali doon sa pagre-rehistro. So, ito yung mga kaso na sinasabi natin na during the time of registration, there are falsified documents that were submitted or there are fraudulent information that were entered by the local civil registrar.
Santa Cruz Mayor Jose Sala has said in a statement that they do not tolerate this kind of illegal transaction. He said they've already conducted their own investigation on the matter. Sala adds that they welcome the NBI's probe and will cooperate with all concerned agencies. The Philippine Statistics Authority, for its part, recently rolled out stricter policies for late birth registration. In a memorandum issued last month, applicants 18 years old and above should appear personally before the civil registrar. The applicant should be registered with the Philippine Identification System and must bring unedited front-facing photos of themselves. And for registrants who have parents that are foreign nationals, they should be able to provide the marriage certificate of the parents, their birth certificates, and valid passports or immigration clearance records. Aside from these requirements, the PSA is also ramping up branch inspections.
Bukod dito, dahil dito sa issuance na to, binibigyan din natin ng visitorial powers yung mga field offices ng PSA para from time to time ang mga local civil registrars ay binibisita ng ating mga field offices at tinitingnan yung regularidad ng kanilang mga pagkuha ng supporting documents, especially dito sa delayed registration.
Senators are now calling for a deeper investigation into the issue, saying the case of suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Go's late registration may be quote-unquote just the tip of the iceberg. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
Up next, budget watchdogs are flagging the return of excess GOCC funds to the National Treasury, including almost 90 billion pesos from PhilHealth. That Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Budget watchdogs are flagging the Finance Department's order to government-owned and controlled corporations, or GOCCs, to return unused funds to the National Treasury so that these may be used for unprogrammed appropriations. One such GOCC is PhilHealth, which has an unutilized budget of close to 90 billion pesos. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto sees nothing wrong with this money going back to government. He explains that billions in unused and idle funds of GOCCs are being marshaled for projects in health, social services, and infrastructure. But advocates and watchdogs are calling for an investigation, with former Finance Undersecretary Cielo Magno and Filomeno Santa Ana, Executive Director of local think tank Action for Economic Reforms, warning that this could be a new way for the government to misappropriate funds. In a TikTok video, Magno said the excess funds are not meant for questionable insertions into the national budget. The PhilHealth Board has agreed to remit its excess funds to the Treasury in tranches.
Sa unang tranche po, tayo po yung nakapag-remit ng 20 billion. Yan pa lamang po ang atin pong na-remit. Yan po yung bilang compliance po natin sa nasabi pong batas po. Ito po ay decision ng kabuuan ng PhilHealth Board po. So, masasabi po natin na ito po ay solid position. Hindi po ako aware kung may mga nag-dissent, pero siyempre po, ang board naman po ay isang collegial body po. So, lahat po ng mga pagpapasya, mga decisions po, ay yan po ay decision po ng kabuuan ng Board of Directors.
So what is the problem with the Finance Department's directive? Let's ask budget analyst Zaiza Nadine Suzara. Zaiza was the former executive director of the Institute for Leadership, Empowerment, and Democracy and joins us live via Zoom tonight. Good evening, Zaiza. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Regina, Shawn, and Gretchen. Thank you for having me here.
Listen, this is a quite dense and complicated subject, and I'm actually, I follow business and economic news, right? But let's try to break it down in chunks. First, give me your overall sense about this and why you're against the return of the excess funds of GOCCs to the National Treasury.
Can we pipe in? Let's try to simplify this as much as possible. Why should people care about this?
Yes. Yes, okay. So I'd like to begin by saying that this has long been coming. This was authorized by Congress in the 2024 General Appropriations Act, particularly in the special provisions of the unprogrammed appropriations. Now, why is this concerning? Why is the directive to sweep the cash or the undisbursed, unutilized funds of GOCCs concerning? It's because it's meant to be used based on the special provision that I mentioned earlier for the unprogrammed appropriations. And the unprogrammed appropriations basically acts like a standby fund, and it cannot be used in the middle of the fiscal year. What's supposed to be prioritized are the things that have been budgeted in government agencies, including the subsidies of GOCCs like PhilHealth. That's just one dimension of it. The other dimension of it is how the government, particularly the DOF, ordered the GOCCs basically to return unused funds. And again, as I said, this was precipitated by that authorization made by Congress in the 2024 General Appropriations Act. So in essence, it was a directive to the DOF, and therefore the DOF had no choice but to implement it, and the GOCCs definitely had no choice as well but to comply. Again, why is this concerning? Because, for example, in the case of PhilHealth, there are two laws that basically mandate PhilHealth to receive funds from national government via the total tobacco excise tax collections that's mandated under the sin tax law. 80% of the 50% that will go to the national government is supposed to be a share of PhilHealth. And the Universal Healthcare Act also says that PhilHealth's excess funds and its income cannot be diverted to another national government agency or another GOCC, or government corporation, as we call it. But now what we're seeing is the national government via the DOF's department order is ordering GOCCs to return excess funds. But even if we say that these excess funds have not been used by GOCCs like PhilHealth, the truth is these were budgeted for certain programs, projects, and activities of these GOCCs. They are mandated to deliver certain public goods and services. And so it cannot really be an excuse that they are unable to spend what was given to them. However, taking away the funds from these GOCCs like PhilHealth is not the solution. The solution is to improve the capacity of PhilHealth to implement its mandate, basically to provide insurance for the ordinary Filipinos. So why would the DOF, why would Congress in the first place direct the national government to take out funds from agencies like PhilHealth that are supposed to deliver public goods and services? In the case of PhilHealth, obviously that's universal healthcare. Are we saying now that we don't need the excess funds anymore to implement the Universal Healthcare Act? Are we saying that PhilHealth has already implemented the Universal Healthcare Act 100%, such that there is no longer need for those funds? Second, where did the excess funds come from? Are these excess funds because they have really not been utilized? Are they from the subsidies that PhilHealth received from the national government, which again is mandated under the sin tax law? Were these funds income of the PhilHealth, meaning revenues that come perhaps from direct contributions? Were these dividends from the investments of PhilHealth? We do not know. All we know is that there is a mandate for PhilHealth to return the funds and that they have returned 20 billion pesos. The other matter, the third point there is we do not know also how this will be used. And that's why the bloated unprogrammed appropriations is problematic. Now, the unprogrammed appropriations, I used to work in the Department of Budget and Management, and I know for a fact that the unprogrammed appropriations only had 6 general or broad line items. And
I'm just
even
curious.
if
Yeah, can I
yes.
interrupt? Is this unconstitutional? Like doing all of this?
I would say it is, and I think a case should be filed in the Supreme Court in order to clarify whether it actually this move actually violated the Universal Healthcare Act and the sin tax law, and even the whole move of Congress to keep increasing and increasing the unprogrammed appropriates to a level that actually led to the total budget level of the Philippines for the past 3 years breaching the original proposal of the executive branch. The Constitution actually prohibits Congress to increase the total budget level that the executive branch proposed. But because of the bloated and programmed appropriations the past 3 years, this is what we've been seeing. For 2024, the unprogrammed appropriations went up from some, I think, 200 plus billion, went up by 450 billion, so that it's now 732 billion pesos, I believe. And so that's like a rider in the General Appropriations Act or the national budget. That's effectively like a supplemental budget that was, passed together with the budget that the Philippines is supposed to have for this year.
Talk me through in greater detail about your third point there about what you call the bloated, unprogrammed appropriations. It sounds to me like you're very worried about how it will be used. What exactly are you worried about here?
Yes. First of all, it's the level of the unprogrammed appropriations. Earlier today, my friend JC Punong Bayan and I basically graphed the historical figures of the unprogrammed appropriations from 2010 up until the present. So normally, what the executive branch proposes to Congress would be the same level that gets enacted in the General Appropriations Act, except for 2022 to 2024. So it started with the unprogrammed appropriations increasing by 100 billion pesos in 2022, by 219 billion pesos in 2023, by 450 billion pesos in 2024. Now, why is Congress doing this? They're basically shifting around so many things in the national budget. The national budget is composed of three types of what they call appropriations. Appropriations are basically the authorization given by Congress for the government to spend. So we have the unprogrammed appropriations, that's the standby fund. We have the programmed appropriations, which is the part of the budget that has guaranteed cash cover, and we have the automatic appropriations, which is what the government allocates to pay our sovereign debt. The unprogrammed appropriations is worrisome because historically it has been used as a standby fund. And even if the line items that you see there, like I said, only six items. Sorry, yes?
Sorry, for what exactly? That's what I'm trying to understand here. The standby fund, what has it historically been used for? What are you most worried about here?
Yes.
That this amount of money will be used for as well.
Yes, it's historically used for contingencies. That's why it's so broad, it's so general, in order to give flexibility to the executive branch. But the limit there is where the cash will be sourced. Historically, it can only be tapped when the government generates new revenues or excess revenues. But since the pandemic, we started adding different things, added foreign loans into that provision, such that if the government is able to raise funds from foreign loans, they can use the unprogrammed appropriations. The latest one that Congress added into the special provision of the unprogrammed appropriations is precisely the unused funds of GOCCs. And that's like opening the lid. That takes out the limit for what the unprogrammed funds can be used for. And it's irresponsible in the sense that you basically encouraging different government agencies to just, ask for things from the executive branch, from the president, and also basically encourages the president to fund just about anything.
Okay, Isa, just
Even if
I
they're
just wanted
not
to clarify,
in the
kasi parang you were talking
line
about
item budget.
you were talking about 6 broad line items. Tama
Yes.
ba na that is where these unprogrammed appropriations can be used? So who gets to decide who spends what of the unprogrammed appropriations?
That's actually what was done historically, 6 line items, but now it's 50 plus. So it can be anything depending on what the president actually wants. Because at the end of the day, the release of funds from the unprogrammed appropriations has to be authorized by the president. So the unprogrammed funds is a combination of very specific projects and very, very broad line items that can actually be used to augment the pork barrel of legislators. And remember what I said earlier, this unprogrammed appropriation was only inserted, it only increased by 450 billion during the bicameral conference committee meetings of Congress when the 2024 budget was passed. And that was the last stretch of budget legislation. It was not even discussed on the floor in the Senate. It was not discussed on the floor in the House of Representatives. Suddenly, in the last week of budget legislation, right before they ratified it, they inserted 450 billion pesos into the unprogrammed appropriations such that it is now 732 billion pesos. And who knows how it's going to be used unless the administration proactively comes up with a dashboard and tells us exactly what projects they're funding, who are benefiting, what districts, what localities, what types of projects. So we will never know that.
So I guess we have to wait for COA, right?
We will have to, I guess, make some noise about it and keep the pressure on them to produce such a database. We're going to have to leave it there. We've run out of time. We'll try to get you back on the show another time. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Ziza Suzara, budget analyst and former chief of iLead, a public spending watchdog. Thanks so much for your time. In other news, well, several news organizations in the country, including yours truly, One News, have joined forces to commit to deliver comprehensive and honest information that voters will need to know for the upcoming election period. Maricel Halili has that story.
10 months before the 2025 midterm elections, the largest and most extensive election coverage in the Philippines has been launched. Bilang Pilipino 2025, Bayan ang Ipanalo.
Bilang Pilipino has been our media group's comprehensive coverage across broadcast, radio, and print platforms, and the campaign aims to inform voters what the candidates stand for and the roles of elected officials, and as much as possible to ensure that the proper counting of the votes are made in the course of the elections.
With the combined efforts of News 5, Signal, One News, 1PH, Radyo 5, Philippine Star, Filipino Star Ngayon, The Freeman, Business World, PLDT, and Smart, the public will be provided with essential information for making informed choices about candidates. Filipinos can also expect fair and honest reporting.
Ang pagtrato natin dyan ay katulad din ng pagtrato natin sa mga balita na inihahatid natin araw-araw, no? We really just want to be truthful, to be accurate, and to be fair. Tsaka talagang importante talaga ngayon balansado, no?
To encourage them to exercise their right to vote, and to help them also make that right choice, no, when selecting their leaders for the country.
To further strengthen the advocacy against fake news, the MVP Group, in partnership with the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, launched Think Amuna. This initiative aims to educate voters and citizens to be more critical in identifying accurate information. This is also meant to address the spread of fake news on social media, which increases during election periods.
I think it's our mission na to help yung mga Pilipino natin, mga kababayan natin to discern more clearly kung ano yung totoo at saka kung ano yung fake news.
There's also the threat from those using artificial intelligence to spread fake news.
We just really want to teach the public that when they consume information na stop, look, and think kung tama ba yung nakikita nila bago sila mag-click, mag-share, bago nila i-like, diba? So we're teaching them to develop critical thinking skills.
As representatives of the media championing these advocacies, present at the launching of Bilang Pilipino 2025 Bayan ng Ipanalo were respected journalists Cheryl Cosim, Jay Taruk, Gretchen Ho, and Ted Failon. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
And we are just 10 days before the opening of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Filipina fencer Sam Katantan is readying herself after day one of her sparring session against members and the resident coach of Société d'Escrime des Mets. Katantan snapped the 32-year longing for a Filipino fencer in the Olympics after winning the women's foil category in the Asia-Oceania Zonal Olympic Qualifier in the UAE. Now, despite facing tough competition, Katantan is eager to bring home a medal for the Philippines. Also busy in her preparations is Filipina gymnast Emma Malabuyo, who is crafting her own masterpiece as she continues her gymnastic training at Metz, France. Like her fellow teammates in Philippine gymnastics, Malabuyo is looking to bring home a medal in her first Olympic appearance.
And before we say goodbye for tonight, congratulations to the people behind the movie The Kingdom, as it is one of the official entries to the 50th Metro Manila Film Festival, or MMFF. The movie stars Bossing Vic Soto and Piolo Pascual, together with Christine Reyes, Sid Lucero, and Sue Ramirez. The Kingdom is directed by Michael B. Tuviera and is produced by MZ Productions, MQ Ventures, and APT Entertainment Incorporated.
May bago tayong abangan, MMFF.
Oh, which it is now 2 times a year as
May
opposed
entry
to
na si
once
Vic
a
Soto.
year.
Kasi last year, parang wala yung mga big ticket usually si Vice Ganda, Vic Soto. Now he's back.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I guess it's a great thing that they expanded it to twice a year instead of the usual December. Kasi lagi ako wala dito pag December. And everyone's so busy, di ba? With family stuff, holidays. So I'm glad there's
Take your family to the movies.
Pero may trivia ako.
But also,
Kami dati, lagi namin pinapanood. Every December 25, guess what? Mano po.
oh my God.
1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Family tradition every year. Every single year. Pero wala na.
That's
wala
the first time I'm hearing of
Ako rin.
such a thing. But also, bilang Filipino, right? 10 months to go, but 10 months, it sounds like a lot at this point in time, but it's going to fly by, and before you know it, it's time to hit the polls again. And it's going to be
3 years.
and it's going to be a pivotal elections for us too. So
Correct.
bilang Filipinos, start tuning in to all these all the news organizations, TV5, One News, One PH, True, Philippine Star, Business World. Who am I missing? Freeman.
Radio.
Oh, that's right.
Radyo 5.
Radyo 5.
But before that, we have the State of the Nation address on Monday
July
1st.
22nd.
Right.
Oh yeah, that came up really fast. It's usually a bit later on, but you know, as the Constitution has it,
Mid-July, late July.